I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 6 English lesson on addresses. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username and password, we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts, grade 6, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of addresses. All right. So when it comes to, well, listen, before we go on to our chapter and lessons for today, we said our chapter is addresses. Our subject is English Language Arts, grade 6, and the lessons that we are focusing on today is formatting street addresses. All right. And when it comes to addresses, right, remember your address is basically, it shows the place where you live, it shows your residence. So usually, you need to put in your correct address, especially when it comes to sending or receiving letters. It's nowadays everything is digital, so it is basically online. And there isn't much people that either sends letters or sends certain things. However, we do a lot of online shopping, right? So if you do a lot of online shopping, deliveries, online, like buying food, like Uber Eats or something, and then you basically gonna have to put in your correct street address, right? So this is now formatting your street address, writing it correctly in order for you to get your food on time, for example, or in order for you to get your package on time. All right. So once again, we said that when it comes to addresses, right, people usually used to send letters. Letters used to get it. You used to get letters in the mail, right? But now everything is being sent on the phone, right? So even you don't even have a pen pal anymore, because your pen pal can be over WhatsApp, or your pen pal can be over any other social media network platform, right? Pen pals can even be people that you maybe randomly meet on, let's say, ways in which we can chat is maybe through Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or different kinds of ways in which you can now basically communicate with people. I think another word was Roblox or something that people also used. I've been hearing some of you mentioning Roblox or something. So even like that, that can also be ways in which you can now communicate with people instead of just sending letters, right? Because uh, nowadays people don't do that. However, like I say, you still need to put in your correct address, because since the one thing has been taken away when it comes to sending or receiving letters in the mail, right? That's why most people don't even have a mailbox anymore. But you still need to put in an address, because we are making life much more easier by, for example, buying food online, buying things online, buying goods online, buying anything like that online. So which means that it's being delivered to our doorstep. And in order for you to get your stuff to be delivered to your doorstep and not to the wrong address, then it means that you're gonna have to write your address in full. You're gonna have to format your street address to an extent that when they type in your address, immediately the driver will go straight to your place and drop your item, drop your food, right? Exactly. Letters takes a while to deliver, and that is why people don't do letters anymore. In the sense of they don't do this thing of sending letters no more, right? Many years ago, before social media became very big, actually before social media, people still used to send a lot of letters, right? But now that everybody has cell phones, everybody knows how to use cell phones. Even kids have cell phones nowadays. So now it is much more easier for you to just be sending letters. You can send letters to your family member, that is in a different, basically in a different continent, and they will get it immediately, like literally in a minute's time, if their phone is basically in their hand, right? But with letters many years ago, you need to first write out the letter, then you need to travel to the post office. Then when you get to the post office, it takes how many, it takes weeks, months sometimes to get to the person, right? Sometimes not months, but I mean like weeks. It takes to get the letter to the next person. Exactly. So now you are rather packages are being delivered, and even with packages nowadays, you don't even wait that long, because nowadays you have this way of, since a lot of people have been, let's say, ordering packages, there's usually you don't even wait as long as people used to many years ago. What is Roblox? So what is Roblox? All right, but also when it comes to in order for you to get a package, in order for you to send or deliver or send or receive packages or anything, you need to use your correct, or basically you need to write your correct address. And now we're going to basically find out how we can write our correct address in order for somebody to get, or to, let's say, to drop out or deliver our goods or to deliver the package or to deliver the food without hesitation. Oh, okay. So it's an online digital game. You see, even with Roblox, right, with an online digital game, people, they basically communicate on the digital game. I know, because it's like you say, you have like a username, and that is also how you can communicate with people by even just means of playing your game, right? Oh, okay. Thank you for that. All right. So now when it comes to writing our addresses, right? So when addressing personal responses, right? Or let's say personal correspondences, right? Then we need to be sure to correct to use the correct format and punctuations of our, let's say, our address. So when addressing personal correspondence, be sure to use the correct formatting and punctuations, because remember, sometimes if we use the incorrect punctuations, right, and then it might either show misspelling, miss something, right, but we need to basically show the correct punctuations, show the correct format of the address in order for our address to be correct and for our address to basically, let's say for our mail not to, or our package not to get missing. And if we, let's say, they are to deliver a package, right, and they're delivering it to your place. So if they were to deliver something to your place, right, this is going to be a format now of how we can write, the addresses. So if they need to come and deliver a package at your place, right, they are going to, for example, fill in the details, of course, of the adult. For example, either Mr. Patrick Kelly or Mrs. Patrick Kelly or Mrs. Patricia Kelly, maybe, for example, depending on whoever that made the purchase, right? So, which means that this is going to be your name and surname with the title in front of your name. And the title in front of your name is either Mr. or Miss. So, Mr., Miss, or Mrs., right? That is a title. Then you're going to also write your name and surname. So this is going to be name plus the title, right? So name, surname plus the title, right? Then we're going to write the street, basically your house number. So your house number is going to be 2495 or whatever the house number is. Then you write your street, like your street name, for example, Kensington CT. And then you're going to write down your city, right? And you're going to write down your state, and you're going to abbreviate your state. And then you're also going to write down your zip code, right? And that is basically how we either correct or write our address correctly. So let's say, for example, your friend says, "Oh, come, let us go to wherever. My parents and I will come and pick you up." then you are going to have to give them your proper address, starting with the house number, the name of the street, the city, the state, as well as the zip code, just to be safe. All right. So when it comes to also formatting our addresses and writing our addresses, right? Then on the first line, there which is Mr. Patrick Kelly. So on the first line, right, you're going to write down the recipient's name. It's whoever the package is going to be delivered to. Basically the receiver of something. So if you are going to be receiving something, then we are going to write, for example, your title. It's either Miss, it's Mr. or Mrs. Mrs. is a, it's like the wife, for example. You're married. If you're not married, then it's Miss. Or if you're, let's say, a teenager, child, but the female, then it's Miss. Mr. stays the same for any age. So on the first line, we're going to write down the name of the person that the item is going to be delivered to, or more like the receiver of the item, right? Then on the second line, we're going to write down the street address as well as the street number, right? Because remember, the number is important because next door to you, there will be number 2493, and then 2491, or there's going to be 2050, 2497, 2499, for example. All right, which means that you're going to have to write down the correct number also. So yes, the street address, right, but also keeping in mind the street, the house number in which you live in. All right. And when we, for example, write down our street address, the house number also, right? Then it means that we need to also keep in mind that we need to capitalize it, and we need to include a period after an abbreviation. So whether you say I live in 2495 Kensington Street, Kensington Road, Kensington Circle, Kensington Corner, your, let's say, either the word like street, road, corner, city, it needs to have, it is abbreviated, and we put a period after that abbreviation. All right. And then on the third line, or the last line, right? So on the third line, we need to write down the city. There we have Concord. You need to state abbreviation, which is NH, right? That's the abbreviation. And you write down the zip code, which is 03301. What is it called? You see, like with what is it called in your in your country. Like in my country, we call it our province. You see, because we have in our country, right, we have 9 provinces. So, which means that I am in the Western Cape, that is in my province, right, in the Western Cape. So, we also don't mention states, but we mention province. So, it will basically depend on what. Remember, it's like you say, yes, not all. Yes. So, which means that you're not going to say state, right? So, you either, like in place of state, this is going to be province. So, this is going to be province. So, like, let's say in my case, right, or I live in the province, like, I live in Africa, which is the continent. The country is South Africa. But then in South Africa, I live in the province called the Western Cape, right? So I live in the Western Cape. So which means that if I abbreviate the Western Cape, I'm just going to write WC. And that is to abbreviate let's say, the province that I live in. It's basically called a state because that is because like we say certain countries call it a state, certain countries call it a province, but I think it's basically equivalent to the same. Yes, I think that is what I'm saying. It depends on the specific country, it depends on I'll probably say the continent, probably let's just say the specific countries. It depends on the countries what they use, but I know in our country, South Africa, we have 9 provinces. So we go according to our provinces. Let me just see. Um, all right. Let me just see if there is a difference between a province and a state. Okay, so I now try to Google the difference between a state and a province, right? And they say a state refers to a community that lives under the rule of a single government with fixed boundaries, right? States have higher authority or not on autonomy to make their laws and conduct elections. Now, here it comes to us, a province, right? And a province refers to the territories for the ease of administration by the central government. Provinces have slightly lesser autonomy when compared to states. So that is the differences between states and provinces. So specifically, it's like you say, America has a state, right? And that refers to them then having a single, let's say that like one single government, right, which rules and they have their fixed boundaries, right? And then we again live in a province, right? And it's like you mentioned, Prabha mentioned, it's either states or it's territories, right? And they basically ease the administration by the central government. So NH, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what it means. I I didn't even know what NH means. Because remember, I am basically from South Africa. I'm basically from Africa. So I mainly know our provinces. I know our countries. Um, yeah. But thank you, Prabha, for assisting us over there. It's New Hampshire. So we appreciate Prabha for assisting us over there. But do you guys get the idea? Not even the idea. Do you get when I say that this is how we format addresses? We write down on the first line the name of the person as well as the title of the person that is receiving, let's say, the items, the delivery. Let's say the delivery, right? So the person receiving the delivery, we write down, for example, the title as well as the name and surname. And then on the second line, we are going to write down the street address by first starting with the name of, let's say, the number of the house number, the street name, and the CT. I don't know what CT really stands for, but for example, you can say either something circle, Kensington Circle, Kensington Street, Kensington Road, example, whatever the names of the roads are. And then on a third line, right? Actually, still in our second line. So we see that in the second line, we write our house number as well as our street address, but we need to be sure to capitalize it. All right, and then we go to our third line, right? And on our third line, we see that we're going to write down the name of a city, right? After writing the name of a city, then we're going to put a comma. And then we either write down the state abbreviation or the province abbreviation which you live in. So if you live in a province and then you write down the abbreviation of the province, or if you live in a state, then you write down the abbreviation of the state. And then followed by our zip code. So we followed by our zip code. In my country, we call it a postal code. And we need to be sure to capitalize the city and both letters of the state abbreviation, and we also need to include a comma after the city. All right. I think the I feel like even with me, sometimes we remember we are always learning, right? We're always learning. So I mean, like me learning from you a specific word, right, which will means that next time when somebody brings it up, then I won't be as confused, right? So that is good. So well done. And thanks again. So basically, zip code is then mentioned, or the mentioned zip code in America. I think we are doing, yes, I think this is probably like a USA type of lesson plan. Let's put it like that. Because we also mentioned postal code, and like you say, you mentioned postal code, and you use province, whereas in the US they use state. I don't think zip as in zipper, but yeah. Do they call zip code because of a zipper? Oh, so I don't know why they call it a zip code. All right, but at least we know the certain words for next time when somebody maybe mentions it, and then you'll be able to, you know, be part of the conversation for the fact due to the fact that you know now what to do. Right? All right. Now let's go to aplusstudents.ca, where we will be continuing with our chapter on addresses and then going to the lesson on formatting street addresses. All right, so we said our chapter is addresses, and the lessons that we are focusing on is formatting street addresses. I think zip code, which I briefly once read, it's like a string of numbers, I think. Because I know our, let's say, postal code is about four numbers. Like, for example, 7764 is for a specific suburb or something in an area. So I think zip code just means that it is like a list or a string of numbers. I think it is definitely American syllabus. What do you say for that? Do you also call it a period or do you say it's a full stop? But you know, most of the online tutoring companies are actually doing an American syllabus. Okay, there's American terms in your lessons. Prabha is taking over the lesson today. Yeah. So you do use a period, okay? Because in my country, we actually say this is a full stop. Like a period is like a full stop. So at least that is also period. Because remember, I am teaching based on what the lesson is telling me. So according to me, you'll say zip code, you use state, you use period, right? So whereas with me, it's like postal code, or it is province, or it's full stop, for example. that it's definitely a period. All right. Thank you for that. All right. So now we see that here are a few examples, right? Of over here, they're showing us a few examples of how to, for example, format our address, right? And we see in the first line of formatting our address, right? It is the way they are going to address the recipient. The recipient is the person who's going to be receiving the, let's say, the goods, which whether it's a package or something, right? But it's the person that's going to be receiving it. And in our second line, we said we need to, for example, um, you need to write the house number down, the house number, the street name and address. All right. So we just need to keep in mind and remember, as much as we say you need to add your state, but you add your province, for example, right? All right. So thank you very much for all of those comments, right? All right. So now let's go to our test. We're going to our test where we are going to be formatting our street addresses. We are going to format and punctuate the address correctly by fixing three errors. So we need to format and punctuate the address correctly by fixing three errors. So there's basically going to be three errors within this street address, right? And then we are going to have to say which one is correct, right? Because it says format and punctuate the addresses correctly by fixing the three errors. So we are going to format and punctuate the address correctly by fixing three errors. Remember, three errors. There's three errors within the this address. The first one says Mr. Jeff Conley, 5421 Church Hill, PKWY. And then the third line is Slaterville Springs, I think it's New York, 1481. All right, and if we look at the addresses, right, we need to look at things that needs fixing. That is not, maybe there's no abbreviation, maybe there's no punctuations. All right, all right, and if we were to choose the correct one, right, format and fixing the errors corrected by fixing three ones. So if we're gonna, I'm not sure if we need to choose the one that with the errors or the one without the errors. All right, let's go with the first one. All right, and the first one is correct. All right, we're going to the next one where we need to format and punctuate the address correctly by fixing one error. So when we format and punctuate the addresses, remember we said the first line they are addressing the person, which is Fred Spencer, for example. And then we have our street address. They we already have an error, so let's go with the second one. All right, so the second one is correct. We need to basically select the ones that are the three errors, right? Select the three errors and we choose the correct one. All right, the first one says Brad Fowler. The street is correct. All right, so if we were to choose the correct one, I'm not sure if it's the first one or the second one now. Ah, so it's the second one. I knew it. So it's the second one that is correct, not the first one. Oopsie, why did I go out? Just give me 1 second. I went out of it now. We see that the first one was correct there, and then we said I think it was the second one. Yes. Yes. So yeah, the correct one was actually, did we say the first one? Ah, we said the second one was correct because of the punctuation mark that is, let's say, by the state or by the province, right? So we were going with the first one is then actually correct. The second one isn't actually correct, sorry. All right, let's go to another one. We need to format and punctuate the address correctly by fixing the ones. So thanks to you guys for getting it correct. Yes. So now let's look at the next one. Here we have Mr. and Mrs. Malone, 9740 Hudson Road. We need to choose three errors. Alman MO65083. And if we look at the first one, right, there by road, we already have an error, and that is by the second line. We already have an error because it is not capitalized and there's also no period, right? So which means that if we were to format and punctuate the address correctly, we will choose option two because that now is correct. Yes, well done. Option two is correct. All right, so this is the end of our lesson on formatting addresses. Remember, we said with addresses nowadays, as much as we don't send and receive actual physical paper letters anymore, we send things via our phones, we send messages on social media, right? However, we still need to give out our address, right? A full address because of online shopping, right? And things that is being delivered to the doorstep. So this is now the end of our lesson on addresses. Thank you very much, grade sixes. I really hope you're going to have a good evening further. Goodbye.